Namaste. Greetings. Thank you so much for coming to the Dark Goddess Summit. And many thank yous, or mahalos, I should say, because I'm in Hawaii, to Amber for hosting this, being the hostess with the mostest. And to everybody out there who is watching and listening, I thank you for tuning in. This is such a special convention, summit, festival, and I'm honored to be here. My name is Raven Digitalis, and this is my first time doing a Zoom class, so it's very exciting. I'm a little bit nervous, but that's okay. I know you don't mind. We're all witchy folk, and we're in tune with our emotions, and I know you don't mind, right? So I wanted to open with a prayer to the Dark Goddess. So I wrote this back in 2007, and it was part of my first book, which was called Gothcraft, The Magical Side of Dark Culture. So let's all close our eyes. I've got some incense here, just gonna cleanse the space, soak up the energy. Pure rose from India, because I only get incense from India and Japan. Let's all close our eyes and take 3 deep breaths in through the nose and out of the mouth. Put out a nice audible sound on the exhale. Call to the Dark Mother. Behold, she who holds the mysteries I seek under shroud of night. Nocturnal mistress, I fear thee not. I call thee forth with love and humility. Hail the Dark Mother, she who turns the wheel, she who is the shadow tide, she whose mysteries are the blood, she who is the moon eclipsed. O Dark Mother, she who is known by many names, Hecate, Persephone, Caradwin, Rhiannon, Estragio, Lilith, Black Isis, El, Kalima, and many other names. Descend upon us this evening and consume our fears and inhibitions. Be at our side as we dare to see the unseen. Let us know thine ways of nocturnal grace. Surround our souls as we tread your infinite waters. Accompany all of our rights in balance and wisdom. We call thee forth, our mother, our sister, our matrix. Hail and welcome. Blessings of the Dark Goddess. Thank you for coming. So I mentioned that I wrote books about dark culture and shadow magic earlier in my writing career. And I write for Llewellyn, and my most recent publication that's coming out is called the Empaths Oracle Deck. And it's a deck of 40 cards that I'm honored to be working with Konstantin Bax in Germany, who provided the artwork for these cards. And my 2 recent books before that are The Everyday Empath, which is a smaller book, but the one that is the true heart child and the one that the listeners and viewers here would really like is Esoteric Empathy. And I was so honored to have Raymond Buckland actually contribute a cover quote before he passed away. He says, this promises to be the classic work on empathy, a very worthwhile volume. And he actually provided a whole paragraph. And this book, it's larger. It took 6+ years to research and create and reflect on and craft just right. So this is my baby. If you're an empath and a magical person, I hope that you will pick up this book because it's helped many people. And again, I'm just blessed to be able to contribute to that field. So let's talk a little bit about empathy. Got some notes here, some outline. Empathy, I like to call empathy emotional psychicism. It's not psychic in a traditional sense, because traditional psychicism relies on the mind. It's very cerebral, very mental. Psychics, and of course, we all have psychic abilities. We all have empathic abilities. We all have mediumship abilities to different degrees. So with psychicism, it's very much based in the mind. And that's where you get precognition, retrocognition, and these things that are based in the mind, very cerebral. But empathy is totally based in the emotional realm, 100% emotional. So the two can work together, and we can find a balance of how psychicism and empathy can work together. So for people that are very strong empaths, they're often not very psychic, including myself. That's just how it is. If one ability is turned up, then another one might be a little bit turned down. But some people, I've met some people that have a really excellent balance between psychicism and empathic abilities. So empathy is the ability not only to feel emotions, which is sympathy, that's sympathy, but rather to step into the emotion, to become the emotion. And this could be from another, usually from other people. It could be from an environment. It could be from spirits that are around that we emotionally tap into. And I have actually had a couple spirit experiences where they've latched onto my empathy because they could see me as a healer. And a couple of those experiences were kind of scary. So we need to protect ourselves, and I'll talk about that later. But, or from animals, you know, empathy can come in so many different forms. So it's emotionally stepping into something. And people who consider themselves empaths are those who have empathy turned up to a high degree, high frequency. And many of us magical folk are quite empathic or empathetic, because I believe empathy and spirituality go hand in hand, because magic and spirituality, connecting to the divine, is such an emotional, personal experience. And it only makes sense that empaths are drawn to mystical things, mystical cultures and practices. It's just part of who we are, and it's part of our makeup. Empathy is not a curse. That's one thing, especially for newer developing empaths, is to see empathy as a curse. It really is not. It can feel like that, and there are times when it's fucking hard, but we can get through those hard times and learn to see empathy as a gift. Empathy is evolution. So I say that because this is actually scientifically proven as well. Empathy in cultures, in societies, help those societies grow, because then others will protect each other, form family units and bonding. So empathy and human evolution also are right hand in hand. It is the force of evolution, and empathy is really so based in love and genuine kindness. So one thing that Carla McLaren, who writes about empathy from a scientific standpoint, mentioned is that in one of her books, is that empathy is the force of evolution, and empathy requires a compassionate response. So what she meant by that is that a person can take on emotions. Okay, so we've empathized an emotion or emotions, but what do you do after that? It requires a response of compassion. That's empathy. It's a cyclical thing. It's not enough to just take on the emotion and then just live with that, because that can be really hard. So it has that empathy and empathic responses have that next step of compassionate response. So that is where a lot of empaths get stuck. And I've been there, and I still get there sometimes, which is to absorb and take on an emotion and maybe not even realize that we're doing it and just sit with it. But if it's not ours, or if it's an external emotion that we've absorbed that's playing in tandem with our own emotional states, that can really mess up the energetic body, the mind, the spirit. So empaths really need to take good care and have discernment to see where this energy is coming from. But we can't forget that we are very emotional beings ourselves. So if I'm having a breakdown and I'm just having a super difficult time about something, that could be totally my own emotions. That doesn't mean not everything that an empath experiences comes from the outside source, because we are very emotional creatures ourselves. And this is why therapy and really solid friendships can help provide some of those perspectives of our emotions versus another. And with time and practice, we can come to a place of discernment and see, take a step back in mindfulness and question, okay, where's this emotion coming from? Is this mine? Why am I so happy right now? Was I just talking to somebody who was really happy and I took on their happiness? Or why am I so sad right now? So to review it in the mind and take a step back to make it cerebral is really wisdom for empaths, because then we take it from the heart to the mind and we can step back and think about things, think about where we are, what we're experiencing. Empaths notoriously attract narcissists and abusers. So many people who are empathic are just so easily persuadable and gullible. Trust me, I am so gullible. I very rarely can tell a joke from seriousness if a person is presenting it in a certain manner. But yeah, that can be a dangerous thing. And I'm sure many people can empathize with that who are watching or listening right now. So we can be persuaded so easily because of this need to please. Empaths don't like to fight, don't like to get in arguments. We want things to be peaceful and calm and collected. And so we often become yes men. Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, I'll do that. I can do that. No, no problem. Yeah, I get you. I understand you. Because we want to validate other people's experiences. But we often will put our own wellness aside for that. And that is difficult because we come first. We have to come first. You have to come first in your own life. That's just how it is. You are the center of your universe. And if you're healthy and you're balanced, then you can help others with that. So taking a step back and looking at relationships of any kind is so important, because we want to keep people in our sphere who vibrate at a frequency and have similar ethics to ourselves in order to keep healthy. And if we're being persuaded or manipulated or becoming a pushover to other people, then we're off balance. Because some people like to take advantage of empaths, and we have to stand our ground, especially as magical people. We have this responsibility as witches, as pagans, as spiritualists, as whatever you are, to have an anchor and be grounded and have this sense of self and identity. For empaths, the identity sense of self can often become molded by other people because we allow it. So we need to take the responsibility to recognize that we are our own being. We're not just molded and crafted by other people. We're not marionetted by other people's ideas and wishes. We don't have to be. And so many empaths are, and that's very sad. But we can inspire other empaths and other sensitive, emotionally sensitive people to get past those lessons and learn those lessons if we can learn them ourselves first. So it's very important. And when it comes to protection, I'm a big fan of daily practice. So it's one of those things where when it comes to daily practice, unless we're being told and instructed by somebody in a magical or spiritual system, we only have ourselves and the divine to answer to. So we have to discipline ourselves to perform daily practice. And this, for empaths, especially magical empaths, is invaluable because daily practice allows us to connect with the divine before we go out into the day. So there was a Hindu monk, a Swami, who I had the pleasure of hearing speak, who said that the social life and everyday life is like a horizontal line, and the divine and the meditation and the yoga and spiritual practice is like a vertical line. And so we want to maintain that holy cross so that we can experience the divine and social everyday life. So if we incorporate daily practice, then we can remain more centered. And personally, I prefer daily yoga, meditation, chanting, things like that. Many viewers probably have a dark goddess who is a matron who you might choose to work with on the regular. And incorporating that every day will keep us connected to the divine. And there are so many different ways. Like for me, I prefer to shower, wake up, shower, have coffee, obviously, and then get into daily practice. Before eating anything, I only have to eat a banana for breakfast every day. But before my banana, I'll do my daily practice and devotions. And if I'm going to be going to work, because I work in healthcare as well as writing and doing tarot, I'll set my alarm clock a little bit early to make sure that I get in at least 5 or 10 minutes of practice before jumping into the day. So empaths, yeah, we got to do this because otherwise we can just become off kilter. We want to remain protected. So during daily practice, for empaths especially, we can also perform shielding visualizations. So I discuss shielding a lot in my Esoteric Empathy book, the different kinds of shields. So quick warning, we don't want to visualize iron shields or metal shields, because that keeps out way more than needs to be kept out. Crystal, it might sound new agey, but a crystal's visualizing a big crystal sphere around us is great, because that can keep us energetically uplifted and lets in the good, keeps us protected, helps deflect the bad. We can do elemental, brief elemental callings to earth, air, fire, water, and of course spirit, and those can provide really great shields. But like I said, many shielding ideas are in my book there. It's a lot to get into. That would be a whole other talk about shielding. So another thing about protection just in daily life for empaths, we can cover the brow here with a hat or with a bindi or a wig or with your bangs or something. And that helps protect, and also covering the crown chakra. So the Ajna chakra and the crown chakra are in the head. We're viewing life. The head is the main place where energy is exchanged, and we process and experience life. Obviously, the brain is in there, in our skeletons. So we want to protect those areas. Another thing, and that's only if you're feeling overwhelmed. If you're feeling very confident, there's no need for that. Another thing is if you're feeling nervous talking to somebody, you can look them right here at the Ajna chakra when you're talking to them face to face, and I promise they won't even notice. It looks like you're looking in their eyes, but you're not. You're looking at their other eye. And that can be really beneficial if you feel overwhelmed talking to someone. They won't even notice. And you can try that with friends or family and see if they notice. Energy is exchanged through the eyes tremendously. So eye contact is very important. It's also just tremendously powerful. So this is why we'll see people who are, many of whom are very empathic, just look down and not make much eye contact. And, that's because it can be overwhelming. So when we're at a place of confidence, such as from daily practice and healing ourselves however we can, then there's no problem in looking people in the eye. It's a sign of respect. And we can, if we maintain our shields, we won't absorb all those emotions or the other person's reality if we're keeping protected. There are many things we can do instantly too if we feel like we've caught emotion from somebody by looking them in the eyes, even just passing someone in the grocery store. Just close the eyes and let it out real quick. Can't overthink it. We can very quickly process emotional energy. It's so easy to just get caught up in the experience and be like, oh my gosh, I just absorbed this, I'm gonna panic. No, we can let it go like that. We're magical people. We're aware of our abilities, and it's actually kind of fun to play with, because once we get in the rhythm of what to do with the emotions that we've absorbed, we can really do it effectively very quickly. So one thing also is that, and I talk about again in my Esoteric Empathy book, because it's a magical thing just for empaths and the empathic experience, is that we can visualize energy entering our left side and coming out of our right side. So when we're talking to people, and this can even be after we've had an empathic experience, but works very well when we're talking to people, is that we just very quickly imagine this social energy, this emotional energy entering the left side of our body, and we transmute it instantly, boom, into light, and send it out the right side, the projective side. So we can actually do that very quickly, and the more practice that we do with that magical activity socially, it just becomes second nature. So I would encourage listeners to and viewers to play with that process, because again, it doesn't have to be dreadfully overwhelming. We can have fun with it. We can find out what works best for us, and we are transmuters of energy. So again, it's not enough to just get that energy into us and sit there and panic. We have to transmute it. So in the left, out the right, but it's transmuted with compassion and white light. And this exchange can happen during conversations. It's just a subtle thing. We can also do this in meditation at the end of a day if we feel overwhelmed, and just project it out like that. Of course, we can offer emotions regardless of their source, whether it's ours or someone else's. We can offer that to the elements, to a dark goddess that we prefer, who can take that and transform that herself. And that is very effective. So we just have to work with what we resonate with the best and figure out how to conduct these emotions that we absorb. Another thing, sorry, I keep referring back to this book, but there are different herbs and stones that we can utilize to help us as witchy and magical empaths. So amethyst is one that's very common. So amethyst is very gentle, very healing. It's very loving, and it helps dispel negative energy. So that's a great one to carry in the pocket, to wear on your neck. Very gentle energy. Bloodstone also helps calm fear. And so if we're experiencing a panic state, or just have general anxiety, just blame it on Mercury retrograde or something. Seriously. We can just wear bloodstone or utilize bloodstone in a spell or carry it on us, and that'll help calm and dispel fear. Carnelian is a great one because carnelian encourages self-confidence, and that's something we all need. I believe the one I'm wearing here is called Sunstone, which is for radiance and for courage and expanding energy. We can take a page from hoodoo and use black chicken feathers. Now, I live on the island of Kauai. I used to live in Montana, but right now I'm in Hawaii, and there's a ton of chickens here. They're all wild. They run around. There's chickens everywhere you look. I have to sleep with earplugs in because at 3 in the morning, I'm like, no. But anyway, there's plenty of black chicken feathers here that I found, and we can take a page out of hoodoo and wipe it all over ourselves, or and then burn it or give it to the elements, or flowing water. So the black chicken feather is a big cleanser if we're overwhelmed with energy. Chrysoprase, I believe is how you pronounce it, chrysoprase. But that's what this one is here. It's for social grace and keeping at a positive vibrational state. So I'm wearing this today because, I'm giving a talk and I want to be socially graceful. So far, so good, I hope. And the herb cinquefoil, or five-finger grass, is an excellent one. It's one of my favorites. It's used, for purification, for uncrossing, hex breaking, and also for breaking negative or overwhelming emotional ties that we may have picked up throughout the day. Citrine is a very good one. Again, it's very projective. Citrine, for confidence. It's because, I mentioned projective empathy transmuting through the right side of the body. That can help with that quite a lot, and helps with just general self-confidence. Copper is really good if we're working with a dark goddess or with deities or guides, because copper is a conductor. So we can, I'm a big fan of a copper wire, thick copper wire, which you can get at a hardware store and they'll cut it for you. And so you can just hold that copper wire and it'll actually draw down the energy and frequency that you're tuning into. Fluorite is really good. It's an emotional stabilizer. Garnet repels negativity. That's another great one to work with. Hematite, of course, is very good, and grounding. See, I have a bunch of hematite in my ears, like this one, this big one, and they're balanced here. Oh, and I've got this, it's not the devil's pitchfork, but a trident here to protect against negative energy. So we can do things like that too. High John the Conqueror root, another big hoodoo one, can help us with confidence. And especially if we're working on a project, or if we have to be social for some reason, to a high degree. Green jasper is very helpful. It is used for emotional disturbances, allegedly. Moonstone is a great one. And there's actually many different colors of moonstone. So the thing about moonstone is that we can use that to connect, obviously, with lunar energy, with goddess energy. If you're working with a dark goddess, it's really good to wear on the dark moon during those 3 days of the dark moon. And it, as you know, the moon connects to the tides of the ocean. For me, being in Hawaii, I can go out on the dark moon to the ocean at night and experience the dark goddess that way. So I'm very fortunate that way, and carry a moonstone for that also. So even if you're not living by an ocean, you can still connect with the moonstone, which will inherently connect to the Great Mother Ocean because of the lunar cycle influencing the tides. So that's an excellent one for empaths, especially when we're feeling balanced and feeling okay. Obsidian is a very good one. It protects against emotional drainage. And so for empaths who are watching or listening who work in like healthcare or retail or any socially exhausting jobs, that's a really good one, is Obsidian. And personally, if I'm working with Obsidian, I'll carry it or wear it for a certain amount of time and just listen to the stone for when it's filled up with energy, and then throw it into running water to let it go, because that it can absorb, and that can help the empath because the Obsidian can absorb instead of us a lot of things, or we can conduct things into the Obsidian, or at the end of the day, hold it, put that energy into the Obsidian that we've collected that's not ours, and put it back in a black sachet bag or something. So there's many different uses we can do magically with Obsidian. Onion and garlic repel negative energy, as most of you know. Onyx is similar to Obsidian. So what I said about Obsidian, I could say about Onyx. Onyx especially is for energy from outside sources. It can collect that and we can conduct it. Let's see, rowan berries are really good because that's used in some shamanic traditions for recapitulation, which means bringing back our energy. So if you're doing any kind of working or spell where you're cutting ties, even just temporarily, and you want to bring back your energy, rowan is great. You can even thread the rowan. That's what my first priestess, Zanoni Silverknife, co-founder of the Georgian tradition, who recently passed away. That was the first thing that I learned from her during the Georgian Wiccan training classes, is threading rowan berries and using that for bringing back energy. So it's so powerful. Rue is a great herb for, also used in hoodoo a lot, for defining boundaries. The same with yarrow. So rue and yarrow are really good ones for empaths. They're both used for defining and setting boundaries. Same with salt, very similar. We can do magic with any kind of salt. We can do a salt water bath or a scrub in the shower, and that'll help. And we have to visualize when we're doing it, washing away those energies. And seashells are really good for connecting to Mother Ocean again. Snake skin is very good for releasing work. If you can get any snake skin, rub it on yourself, visualize it, and burn it. Ooh, so powerful, powerful magic there. And last, but certainly not least, is black tourmaline. That is the stone for empaths, I'm telling you. So black tourmaline has a unique property that basically instantly creates a barrier around the person who's wearing it or carrying it. It doesn't absorb energy, but rather it keeps the person protected. So I will wear black tourmaline if I'm going into a situation that could be anxiety inducing, or if I'm going out in public and I'm not feeling particularly 100%, I'll wear that. It's not something to wear every day. So we don't want to wear black tourmaline every day, because similar to the iron shields we could visualize, it just keeps out too much energy. So that's kind of it's an as needed, very powerful stone. So again, black tourmaline is your friend. Empaths, magical empaths, please get black tourmaline. Oh, you won't regret it. And if possible, of course, try to source your stones, see if it comes from ethical mining practices, not exploitive or child labor. We can look into that and find ethical sources. And especially online, there are a lot of very conscious sellers of gemstones who source specifically from cruelty-free environments. And speaking of cruelty-free, we can choose to be vegetarian or vegan if we want to, if we're called to that, and if our body is able to. I was vegetarian for 8 years. I'm not right now. Living by the ocean, I'll consume seafood, and particularly local, and sometimes other meats. I used to raise chickens and slaughter them even. So that's a very ethical way. But if we can try to source our meat or eliminate meat, depending on our environment or our bodies, that's really good for empaths, because then it takes away excess death energy and energy of suffering. If we're eating factory farmed meat, we're absorbing the suffering of those innocent animals, plain and simple. And if we can find a balance or totally eliminate meat and or dairy, awesome. But it also depends on a person's culture, their body type, their body chemistry, the environment that they're in. If a person is in a very cold environment, probably should eat some wild game. If a person's in a tropical environment, should probably eat more fruit, which I don't eat enough of because I don't like fruit except for bananas. But yeah, that's one way how us earth-based practitioners can tune into our environment and what's going on locally. It's also very good to consume local honey. That helps with allergies. Honey is a miracle substance. It can be put on cuts and scrapes and wounds, and eaten or stirred in tea or coffee every day, and that helps with allergies and getting more in tune with the local flora and local pollens, things like that. So that's one thing, highly recommended. And also, just kind of came to me real quick. If you are feeling very emotionally overwhelmed and you're doing all these practices, and you know that it's coming from outside sources, get a clove of garlic and just eat it up, and it tastes, very intense, but that helps chase out stuff, and you don't want to breathe around people after that for a little while either, especially if they're vampires. So yeah, that is one way to help dispel excessive energy buildup. So I mentioned the ocean. Empaths are attuned to water. So I mentioned showers and baths. Yeah, we're attuned to the element of water. Empathy is totally ruled by water, whereas psychicism is ruled by air in the mind. The East, we're ruled by the West. No wonder you're at this Dark Goddess Summit. I mean, the darkness, the sun descends in the West, and I'm sure you feel a magical shift when the sun goes down. I know I do. It's very resetting, very comforting. So yeah, we're attuned to water and the West. Again, if we're feeling emotional buildup, go for water, however you can. And drink plenty of water throughout the day. So important to keep hydrated. That helps empathically on so many levels, and also magically and physically, physiologically. So water is amazing. And if you drink bottled water, please recycle the bottle. That's just our responsibility, So when it comes to magic and what we can do as magical people, healing professions are best for empaths and magical empaths. So this could come in the form of divination for others, can come in the form of being a doctor, nurse, or healthcare worker, or a Reiki practitioner. So anything that's healing for other people are the professions that most speak to empaths. Same with art. We're natural artists. Every empath is a natural artist. So that can be very helpful. One really cool thing about being highly empathic is that when it comes to spellcraft, we can actually attune and empathize with the energy that we're going for, that we're manifesting. So let's say that I want to get a job. I'll perform whatever magic I'm doing and craft a spell, and I'll tune in to the energy of success and happiness at a job, and having that security. And so we can, as empaths, we can emotionally grab something. We can grab the emotional energy of something, and that goes so far in spellcraft. Because, like when people first get involved with things like witchcraft, oh, I got to add this much of that, do this, say that, the end. No. You have to have that emotional energy to fuel that magic. And we can just tap right into that as empaths. We can tap into the emotional energy of whatever we're going for. We don't typically curse people or do things like that. If you as an empath feel tempted to do that, and sometimes there are good reasons for it, I'm not gonna lie, but it's very rare. I wrote an article for one of the Welland's annuals, either the Magical Almanac or the Witch's Companion, I don't remember which, but it discusses a new approach to cursing, which is it was called Blinded by the Light. So it's really good for empaths to blast a shitload of light to somebody. And the more light you blast to them, the faster they will have to learn the life lessons that are causing them to be awful or whatever. So that those lessons can be very difficult to learn. So you're actually doing the person a favor, and it's not a curse. It's like a massive blessing, if that makes sense. And it will make the person experience situations that might seem like a curse to them, to make them learn and grow. So that's, I think, the best form of cursing. And it's also more karmically ethical. Anyway, we can tap into the energy of the magic that we're going for. We can just jump on that frequency. And again, it's the emotion that we want to connect with. If we're working with a dark goddess, for example, we can also empathically tap in to their energy in that manner. We can do research and research when we're working with any deity, and then attune to them, meditatively attune, or when we're chanting or calling their names, we can feel their emotion. And knowing their mythologies also, we can tap into that and really get to know the deity. And that helps with whether we're doing spellcraft or whether we're just connecting with the deity to honor them and asking for their assistance. It's so respectful to tap into those energies, to those emotional energies of any given deity. I also should say, we don't want to culturally appropriate. So if we're working with, a spirit from the African diaspora in one of those kind of religious traditions, like voodoo, Santeria, Candomblé, all those things, we don't want to cast a Wiccan circle before working with them. If we're working with a Hindu deity, which I do frequently, we can't just do a Wiccan circle and call the elements before working with them, because that's not the culture that those deities come from. So we want to observe and respect to the best of our ability to honor those deities and those cultures. So again, we can't just be like, oh, this deity looks really cool, I'll try to work with them. No, we got to do research. We got to collect the best offerings, and use different languages sometimes if we're working with the deities that come from non-English speaking cultures, for example. And again, that's a sign of respect, and we can empathically attune to those deities. So say I'm working with Kali Ma, or an aspect of Kali, I will get her offerings. I'll get the finest incense, I'll get the finest flowers, and observe Hindu tradition, for example. To the best of my knowledge and ability, I'll consult with people who are Hindu in this example, and make sure that I'm doing it correctly and respectfully, and then empathically open up and attune to that spirit, offer things, converse, and have that spiritual experience. So yeah, empaths, magical empaths, we got it going on. We can really connect with what we're connecting with, and that is so empowering. To go from this place of feeling like empathy is a curse and is so overwhelming and unbearable, to becoming empowered to taking control and taking the reins. Oh, it's so powerful. So if you're an empath who feels like it's a curse, I promise it's just a phase. you can gain control. It just takes self-discipline and research and practice, and you can gain that empowerment, I promise. So let's see, I would also say that art, coming back to artistic expression, is very powerful for empaths, because if we are, and art can be incorporated in spellcraft, of course. Like Aleister Crowley said, all magic is art. And I would also add that all art is magic. So any kind of art, you know, whether that's writing or painting or using clay or performance art or theater or anything, helps conduct our energy externally and puts it into a manifest form. Also, journaling is very important, because that puts our emotions into the physical plane. So, you know, on the emotional plane, if we're getting overwhelmed, we can do something to put it into the physical plane and conduct it down and out of ourselves as needed. So those are some tips, and I hope these things will help with your magical path as an empath. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. Again, Raven Digitalis is my author name. Raven like the bird, and Digitalis like foxglove plant. And you can find me at ravendigitalis.com. I also offer tarot readings with the top deck over the phone, on Zoom, Skype, whatever. And you can find my books wherever books are sold, online or through your local retailers. Support local, go local as much as possible. And again, my amazing friend Dennis, or Konstantin Bax in Germany, provided the art for the Empaths Oracle, coming out in April or May of 2022. So I hope you'll pick up a copy of, and naturally I snuck in lots of magical and occulty witchy stuff in the deck and in the cards, just because I couldn't resist. So it's not very new agey. It's the deck is quite realistic and all encompassing. So please enjoy that if you get a copy. And I will also be selling copies signed when it is released. So feel free to contact me if you'd like a signed copy. You can also find me on Facebook and Instagram under Raven Digitalis, one word, and ravendigitalis@gmail.com or www.ravendigitalis.com. So I've said my name way too many times, so, but I am a Leo, so that's okay. I don't mind. But anyway, thank you so much for tuning in, and so many mahalos and blessings to Amber for hosting this convention. And I am so honored to be here, and thank you so much for listening and hearing what I have to say about empathy. And I can't wait to be back again. So blessed be. Take care. Take really good care of yourselves and others. Namaste.